And so I say all that to go into a lot of what I began to try to process was, why am I subjecting these girls to something that I don't have a good answer? And I don't know what to do with their questions. And so it kind of led me to say, what is it that I don't know in this culture, in this environment? And I'm not saying they're wrong. I just don't know that it's right either.
Yeah, for sure. And I think having girls, that definitely is a shift. I want them to be everything that God created them to be. And you were raised like what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. But do you like? Did you ever question? Did you ever have any questions around it, or did you just accept what you were taught as this is just the way it is? Like, did you have what were your thoughts as a teen, as a young boy, around the way women were treated in the church?
Yeah, I don't think that it ever came up until my girls started asking me questions. I think that was the point that I found myself needing to try to have an honest conversation. Again, I heard stories from my mom, but I don't think that it provoked my curiosity to the point to question why it was the way it was.
How about your dad? Like, how many conversations did your dad have around it? Because he had you have two sisters.
But the dynamics with my dad, he wasn't raised ever in the church.
Yeah.
He didn't get baptized until after I was born. And so a lot of kind of the faith belief system was really my mom's side of the family. And I don't know whether I could put language to it back then or not. I think that there was just certain things that I just chose not to question. If it doesn't directly relate to me, I don't oftentimes pick it up. And so I only reference the sonic experience because I had a whole family making a statement towards me that I knew wasn't true. I just didn't know what to do with it. And so I think that was the first time that I felt confronted in what my belief system was when my girls began to ask this question. That was an equivalent confrontation to me. Does that make sense?
Sure, for sure.
And so I don't know that I really had a grid to try to question it prior to that point.
How old do you think they were whenever they started asking questions?
It seems like around Peyton's 5 or 6, maybe somewhere in there. Could have been a little bit older. Some of that timeline, it's very fuzzy. But the other honest statement is, if you don't know what you don't know because you were never subjected to a different environment, this is the practical, honest response. It wasn't until I stopped being involved in a denomination that I even realized that it was termed sensationism. I didn't even know what that word was. And so I think that's the part that when we hear the word, you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to maybe reconcile that when you've never been exposed to anything different. And so that probably was a limiting factor in me questioning anything, because that was the only exposure that I ever had. And that was 7 generations worth.
So we met, though, right? I never felt like you were trying to squelch me. How did that play out as a spouse?
I think some of it was, well, not some of it. If my prayer with God was that these non-negotiables match up before I get my heart, and you met those non-negotiables, then there was a moment that you shared with me, hey, this environment doesn't really work, but I'm not asking you to stop attending. That was the point with which I chose to get more curious about what you understood that I didn't, because this was all I ever knew. So I couldn't dismiss what you were saying, knowing some of your own story. Recognize that you were absolutely an answer to a prayer, and then somehow think that I better understood something that you were trying to share with me. Did that answer your question?